Shut up and sit down.
I'm Alex Valtrades, and this is the Sunday Book Circle. Today I'm talking about There There by Tommy Orange. If you've watched my video on the first fiction at First Draft, then you know I met Tommy Orange as he was touring for this book. At the time, I had not read his novel. Now I have. And here's my general opinion. It's a good first novel. I feel like Orange still has room to grow, which is great. I love reading authors' work from the beginning of their career forward. It allows me to watch them grow and develop in skill. That's why the next Stephen King novel for me is Salem's Lot. Now it sounds like I'm hedging around some issues, and I am, in a way. Hear me again. There There is a good first novel. On the sentence level, Orange displays brilliance. His talent and skill in the crafting of a beautiful and clear sentence, and by extension paragraph, is at times amazing. On world building, I feel he still has room for improvement. Now, I know that most people, when they read a book or watch a movie or TV show, they are not consciously considering elements of craft. I am. Every time. This is not something I can just shut off. So when most other people read this book, they see the content and the composition of the sentences only. While these two things are well done in There, deeper examinations can present issues for some readers. For example, many readers are blown away by the climax of the book. It hits them hard. They may even cry. I wasn't and didn't because I had too many questions. For example, the type of ammo used in the plastic firearms would affect the survivability of being shot, even being shot in the head, and that detail, along with how much ammo each firearm held, was never stated. This information is important to world building. I feel like it is a writer's responsibility not just to answer these questions for the reader in the know, but also to the character that is involved. Every guitarist can tell you exactly what kind of guitar they have, including brand, model, string type, brand and number of strings, how many frets it has, if it is electric, acoustic, classical, what kind of pickups it has, if it has them, etc., until the end of time. And the reason they know this is because it is important to them. And a character that has an object shouldn't have a nondescript object of the one-word variety. They care about that object, especially when There shows them crowded around the printer as the gun is formed. Gun is such a nebulous form, and it encompasses more the fear that people who don't own a firearm or don't know anything about them have than it does the reality of a firearm. It's important to note that without replacing the barrel and other internal components of a 3D printed firearm with metal parts, the plastic of a 3D printed firearm cannot last more than one shot. And there is a 50% chance that the person firing a plastic 3D printed firearm is going to be injured instead of injuring others. 3D printed firearms are not printed as a single cohesive unit because firearms are required to have moving parts, and some of these parts are very difficult to manufacture using a 3D printer because of the need for supports, and some pieces are simply too complex for most printers. 3D printers involve the heating of plastic. Firearms involve a small, contained combustion used to propel the bullet forward. The combustion and the bullet give off an enormous amount of heat, which, since meltable plastic is the material of most 3D printers, the astute listener can see where this is going. Almost all thermoplastics used by 3D printers cannot handle more than one shot before breaking. 3D printers that use metal are prohibitively expensive, starting in the 5 figures range, and the product is not able to pass undiscovered through metal detectors. Now, I don't know all this off the top of my head. I researched it after reading this book because something about the depiction here bothered me. I believe it was already somewhere in my memory that plastic firearms are not more than one-use weapons. That has its own seedy implications, but makes this climax hard to swallow. So this all took me out of the book. As a creative writer, I feel like if you are going to write about something you don't already know about, you owe it to the craft to research it in depth and make decisions about how much the characters know about it and match the limitations and effects of that real-world subject to your story. The idea that fiction writers can just make anything up drives me nuts. When real real-world information is so readily available, research has never been more viable and more important to fictional narratives. Beyond that, I had difficulties with the number of narrators. I had trouble telling them apart and remembering them throughout the book. During the climax, I spent time wondering who Bill was, who I believe only got one other narration scene, and wondering who Tony was. I felt like some characters could have been not cut altogether, but not narrated, while others could have been expanded on. This style of jumping between characters felt a lot like one of those epic TV shows with an ensemble cast, which most people call lost copies, and I call 4400 copies. While I don't like these shows and that kind of narration style because we have a flood of them, in a show we may forget a character's name, but remember their face and match their characterization to it. In a book, all we have is a name to match the characterization to. This is harder on a reader because most people remember faces better than names. It's natural. This is a danger of writing this way, and very few writers pull it off without any confusion. I wouldn't suggest it, but I felt that Orange did a better job than some more experienced writers despite the issues I had. Now I'm talking spoilers. Far in advance of it happening, Orville being shot was also incredibly predictable by knowing Western narrative tropes. It was that his grandmother and Opal were going to be there, but he didn't know that and may never find out. It was the brothers arguing over the bicycle lock and thinking it was so important when really only life and death is important. They were just major clues that he was going to be hurt. You may remember from my first fiction at First Draft Sunday Book Circle that Orange had stated that he didn't set out to write a novel of representation, but in an interview he also stated while working at a bookstore and reading a lot, he felt like he wasn't seeing any work about people like him. This suggests that maybe he didn't consciously set out to write a novel of representation, but that it was there subconsciously. I feel that writing from a political or social concept can lower the quality of the craft of writing because it often leads to contrivances to meet certain ideas, much like Under the Dome. I feel there is a place for that kind of writing, but it needs to be less real and more in the realm of allegory, as contrivances are allowed in that genre, whereas more reality-based stories come with a lower suspension of disbelief. There is problematic in this way. It is nascent. I'm okay with that. I'm willing to give it a break since it is a first novel, but I'm not going to call it a masterpiece, like I wouldn't call Moby Dick a masterpiece. Great content, great ideas, better execution needed. Definitely read There. It's a good first novel. This has been the Sunday Book Circle, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share, subscribe, click that bell, leave a comment below, visit my blog at empatheticwriter.wordpress.com, and follow me on Patreon for exclusive content and a shout out on a video. Merch. Yeah! Check out my new shop at cafepress.com/AlexofAllTrades for all kinds of products with my face on them.
Wow.